Hello, everyone. Good evening, and a very warm welcome to all of you. Hi, I am Arohi Tyagi, Dean here at AAFT Online. And I, on behalf of the entire AAFT Online family, welcome you all to this exclusive session by one and only Chef Sanjyot Keer. Well, it's a pleasure to welcome Chef Sanjyot, a renowned culinary expert and the creative mind behind the immensely popular platform Your Food Lab. With his unique ability to simplify complex recipes and present them in an engaging, easy to follow format, he has inspired millions of home cooks and aspiring chefs across the country. Chef Sanjot is known for blending traditional flavors with modern techniques, making cooking both exciting and accessible at the same time. His passion for food, innovation, and storytelling through content has made him a leading digital culinary creator in India. We are truly delighted to have him here with us today, and we look forward to gaining valuable insights from his culinary journey and expertise. So, learners, this is your moment to listen, learn, and get inspired. So, hi, Chef, how are you doing?
Hi, Aruhi. Thank you for having me. I'm doing great, and it's always lovely to speak to people who love food and people who want to be a part of our industry. And as Indians, we all love food. Yes, everybody does not love to cook, but the people who do, they love to cook and serve. And yeah, that's something that I started loving as a kid. And whenever I get a chance to share my insights and my journey with people who aspire to be a part of this industry. It just feels really amazing. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the next 1 hour spent with you guys. I'm sure something good would come out of this for a lot of people who are watching.
Absolutely, Chef. Looking forward. So, to begin with, Chef, how has your journey been? How did you decide that you want to become a chef and enter into this field of culinary arts?
It's been an incredible journey. I started cooking at a very young age. When I was in school, as kids, we tried to do so many different things, right? And very early on, I understood. I tried my hands on, studying a lot. I tried my hands on with sports, with music. Like I learned to play tabla for 5 years. So I tried my hands on everything. And what finally made me happy and also made me feel that, I'm special in a way where when I cooked for the first time because when I did sports, I saw the other people, my friends, my peers do better than me. Like when I used to sit in my math class, I used to see my friends solve the math problem much more in a much more easier manner than me. So I used to always feel that am I less or do I have lesser learning abilities or maybe lesser am I less fortunate to not be as good as my peers? But then the day I cooked and I served the first meal to my family and the kind of smiles they had on their faces, that's when I realized that this is what my specialty is. This is something that none of my peers know to do, none of my friends know to do. And this is something that I want to do when I grow up. So, very early on, when I was in sixth standard, that's when I realized that I wanted to become a chef when I grow up. And that pursuit led me on to then train professionally. I did my hospitality management, and then while I was doing my hospitality management, I used to also work with restaurant. So every day after college, I used to end up in the kitchen, work at the restaurant till the night, and then in the morning I used to go to college again. So that was 3 years. And then I worked with a few restaurants early on, and then very early in my career, I got introduced to Media Kitchen, and that was a whole different atmosphere, a very different world altogether. And one of my first projects was being the food producer for MasterChef India. Um, so a lot of people ask me what does a food producer do? So just like in a minute, if I can explain that, when we look at a show on television, right, there's always a creative team which is a part of what would be the show all about, what would be the content, what would the tasks be, etc., etc. So for a food reality show, there needs to be a creative food team, right? So I was heading that team for season four, where you decide what recipes are going to be showcased, you develop those recipes, tasks, the mystery box challenges, etc., etc. So, if you're giving like a mystery box challenge to your contestants, there are four ingredients in the box. Then you will actually try to make different recipes with those four ingredients. See कि यार ये work हो रहे हैं कि नहीं हो रहे हैं, what are the kind of difficulties, and then it goes to the contestants as a challenge. So a lot happens over there, right? And while doing that, it just introduced me to a very different world of culinary, in terms of how it's presented on screen. And also being very young at that time, very new to this whole world, while I was cooking for a long period of time, because once I started to cook while I was in school, I never stopped. I used to cook very frequently. And I started working with my father. This completely very, very far from what food is and what culinary is. Just completely in a factory where machines are there, and you're working in that atmosphere. And every single day I used to think about what can I do to be in constant touch with the first love of my life, which is food, right? And the first thought was, okay, let's start to write a blog. And when I thought about it, that's when I registered this domain called yourfoodlab.com to write a blog on it. And days passed, I'm not really good at writing, and I realized that, if I want to make this big change, right, that how food is presented on screen, I cannot just start writing about it, right? You need to actually then present it on screen and then change it, right? So that did not work out. A year passed by, and then I was not cooking anymore. And then one day I just completely distorted, and I told my father that I'm not enjoying my life. I'm not happy with what am I doing, and I need to be in touch with food. And that's when I told him that Saturdays and Sundays I'll take a holiday from office, and I'll try to figure out what I want to do on those 2 days. And that's when I just thought that, okay, let's record a video, right? Um, and that's when I shot my first video. And the idea was to, present it in a very different manner. And I really liked how that first video turned out. And once, I saw that video, that's when I realized that, okay, I'll start producing videos. And this was early 2016, so exactly 10 years back. While I was producing videos, I thought to myself that what do I want to really do? So there were a few key points when I thought about what would your food lab be, right? So the first and foremost thing was, can I raise that bar and that create a benchmark at how Indian food should be presented on screen? That's one. Two, while you do that, that's an aspiration, right? But is it going to help people? How it helps people, how do I create value and impact? That's when I realized, okay, if I am able to let people explore our cuisine, it would be great, because there's so many people in our country who are not fortunate enough to travel to other parts of the country and try out our food, right? And you never come to know what our country has to offer because it's so diverse, and our food culture is so diverse. So can I cover those recipes and tell people that, okay, this is what our food is, so that they will be able to cook those recipes in the comfort of their homes, which would be a very affordable way to explore our cuisine. So can I do that? Can I help our country cook better in their kitchens, right? Can I do that? And while, all of this comes together, I used to tell this very early on that can I make Indian food look very sexy on screen? Like, so one of my early memories is that, when I was shooting a Karela recipe, हम सभी को करेला बहुत लोगों को नहीं अच्छा लगता है. I'm sure a lot of people who are watching right now also would. I also used to not like it, but it's one of my favorite vegetables right now. Your palate just keeps on changing and it evolves. But while I was shooting it, my idea was that if I'm doing a Karela video, वो करेले की वीडियो भी देखकर किसी ना किसी ने कमेंट करना चाहिए that it looks so beautiful that I am going to try Karela for the first time in my life. I don't like it, but still I'll try it because it looks beautiful, right? And guess what? When the video went out, the first comment was, "I hate bitter gourd, but I'm going to try it because it looks so beautiful." Right? So, so this is how we change the food scene completely. How it's seen on screen today. I can proudly and very humbly say this, that your food lab has set this benchmark that if food needs to be presented on screen, it needs to be presented in a manner where, nobody in the world, especially people from outside of India, can say that Indian food is not presented well on digital. And that's something that I hear from so many of my peers today who are chefs, who are content creators outside of India. And when they come to me, they walk up to me and tell me that, the kind of food your food lab showcases and the kind of videos you produce is something that it's top of the league, and it stands in the top A-list category of how food should be presented on digital. Apart from that, then this journey also helped me connect with so many people. We built community. Our community is sized over about 20 million people right now on three major platforms. We've done upwards of about 10 billion views until now in the past 10 years. In fact, we'll be completing um, 10 years exactly 17 days from now. Yeah, 17 days from now. And in these 10 years, it's been an incredible journey in how um, you know we've shaped different kind of IPs, where we've created shows and formats like Chef It Up, where I invite guests to my kitchen and we have this fun thing. I do a lot of cook along IPs right now, where you've seen people like Ed Sheeran, Ajay Devgan, Saurav Ganguly come to my kitchen and cook along with me. But the whole umbrella idea always has been Indian food, right? Because when I cooked with Ed Sheeran, I had this thought about what should I cook with him. And he came to Mumbai, right? So it's like, let's cook something from Maharashtra, and let's cook like, and then we cook misal pav. And believe, I've never read about misal pav being known in the Western worlds, and maybe Western media has written about it. But the moment we cooked misal pav together, you had all big media houses, which were Western media houses, international media houses, writing about this beautiful recipe from Maharashtra. So the idea is not about that I get to cook with someone who is a global icon, but I get to present my food, and we get that global audience and they can know about our beautiful food, right? So whatever we do at Your Food Lab today is from this idea about celebrating Indian cuisine and opening this world of beautiful cultural food diversity of India to the world. That if we speak about our food more proudly, we present it in the best ways possible, the world would love our food because Indian food is the best in the world, is what I believe. So that's the journey with Your Food Lab. And while doing that, about 2 years back, I started to think about how can I've helped, or I've worked for our industry for, helping India cook better. Can I now do that with products? And that's when we started to think about creating and starting a D2C kitchen brand. And that's how Cura was born. It's been 18 months we've been um, in the markets, developing and selling our small appliances. It's been a great journey. Cura is present in above 150,000 homes today. As we speak, it grows every single day. The idea behind the brand, again, is the same. How can you create one of India's most trusted kitchen brands, which helps people cook better in their homes? The kind of textures, consistencies, results they aspire to achieve, can that be made possible for people in their homes? And can I make their time well spent in the kitchen? अगर वो कुछ टाइम अपने किचन में बिताते हैं, वो टाइम बेटर हो सकता है क्या? Can that experience become a better experience? And also, can I reduce that time spent in the kitchen, right? Because though we love cooking, right? For a lot of people, it's a responsibility and it's not something that they enjoy doing, right? And if you can kind of make their lives easier in a way that, they can spend lesser time but have the same amount of good food, they could be available then to do different things they want to do in their lives and they aspire for, right? So that's the whole objective of Cura. And yeah, I'm glad that people love our products. And it's just been 18 months. We're still a very young brand. And yeah, we are growing at a very fast pace. And the idea is that how we've created one of India's most trusted cooking communities, which is Your Food Lab. We create a community-led brand in our country, which is one of India's most trusted brands when it comes to kitchen. Yeah, so that's been major part of my journey until now. That a lot has happened other than that, but I think I can just go on for hours if I don't stop. But yeah, this is from a bird's eye view. This is what's happening since the beginning. But yeah, there's a lot more in store and a lot more things we are building. But yeah, I'm happy to take some questions from you and make this more conversational so that I just don't keep going on like this.
Yeah, great. Absolutely wonderful journey, Chef. So, to all the attendees over here, in case you want to ask your questions, please drop them in the Q&A box, which is located right below on your screens. I'll take them up on your behalf. So, before we move further, Chef, something which intrigues me is that you might have faced a lot of challenges during your initial period of time. And these are the challenges which every chef faces, when he or she enters into this field. So, would you want to throw some light on that? How did you overcome those challenges and share something with us?
See, challenges is see, whatever you want to do in life, you are always going to have and face challenges. It's not just food and this particular industry, but any industry you enter, there are a lot of challenges. So the first thing, whatever you want to do is, you have to have immense belief in what you want to do. And you need to love. It's not love would be not the right word, but you have to be ready for doing it every single day without any excuses. That's very important. So when today, if I have to cook, right, today, because now I'm not cooking in a commercial kitchen and I'm on the media side of it, but still I spend upwards of about 12 hours every single day in my kitchen, cooking and shooting, right? And we shoot for about 17 to 20 days a month. And even when I pack up in the night at about 11, if someone tells me at 12 o'clock at midnight that, we want to have a meal, I would be up and running and happily cook for them. So no matter what, I love cooking and I can cook with closed eyes. If someone wakes me up in the night at 3 a.m., I can still cook a full-fledged meal for them with a smile on my face. So you need to be ready to do that every single day. That's very important. If you're ready to do that, no challenge can defeat you. That's as simple as that. Because for every challenge there, it would be a different situation, right? There could be a challenge where your parents don't believe in you. They would be like, "यार नहीं खाना नहीं बनाना." ठीक है. For
Hmm,
me,
right.
I was fortunate that my parents believed with me, but every other relative was like, "यार बेटे को बावर्ची मत बनाना." Some were like, "It's not a good industry." Half of them were like, "ये लड़कों का काम नहीं है." And all of those relatives today, they they just want me to be in their parties and everywhere and they want to invite me. So
Hmm.
those are the same people who just tell people that okay, this Sanjyot is my nephew, right? And it's not about this. It's for me, it's not that. For me, it's about when now they say this, right? When now they tell this to people, I at least am doing a part for the industry that cooking and becoming a chef has become so glamorous today, right? It's not something that is looked down upon. And my whole idea of making and celebrating food is all about that, people need to understand that it's an art form which needs to be celebrated a lot, right? Also, you need to understand when I tell about you need to wake up every single day and be ready to do this every single day, no matter what. It could be anything, right? It could be you are having a family problem, a money problem, a health problem. It could be anything. and I've gone through all. And you need to still do it every single day without excuses. And it does not get easy down the line. If I look back and say, I had a challenge 10 years back, which was something very different to what I have today, but I still face challenges every single day. तो मेरे लिए आज भी वो जर्नी बहुत simplified नहीं है. In fact, your stakes become much, much more bigger as you progress in your life. So challenges are never going to stop. What remains constant and same is waking up every single day and being ready to do what you want to do. So for me, that's been food and cooking. No matter what, if I'm cooking in front of the camera for people in a restaurant kitchen or on the street, it does not matter. I still want to cook every single day, and I can do that no matter what comes my way. So if you are willing to do that, and it takes a lot, it's not glamorous anymore. It's completely boring because when you do the same thing every single day, it does not remain the same. But then you need to find ways that how do you keep at it every single time and it does not become very boring and monotonous for you. And the only way it does not get boring for you, which for me has worked and I have realized, is to be that person who tells himself or herself that I don't know it all. कि मुझे सब कुछ नहीं आता. If you become a learner, if you become a student, and if you look at life and your craft as a learner every single day, then you are never going to be bored of it. So today, every day when I cook, even there's someone who is much more junior than me or senior than me, does not matter. I'm always open to learn from everybody when it comes to cooking. And that makes it very exciting for me that every day I take back home a new thing, a new skill, a new learning with me, which adds up to my skill set, which helps me become a better chef or a better person who's better at cooking the next day. So, yeah, this is it. बाकी तो challenges हर तरीके के आएंगे, but you can overcome everything if you are ready to, just wake up every day and on a consistent manner, being very persistent and doing the same thing every day and become a little better because when you learn, तो आप धीरे धीरे better होते रहते हो और वो चीज़ compound होते जाती है. So if you ask me 10 years back when I started YFL, I was not as good at it as I am today. So I've also learned a lot in this 10 years of journey. So it's, if you ask me, it's for people keep thinking about यार शुरू कब करें जो भी उनको करना है बिकॉज मैं उतना अच्छा नहीं हूँ ये तो मेरे से बहुत अच्छे हैं वो दिन ही कभी नहीं आएगा जब तुम उतने अच्छे होगे यू हैव टू स्टार्ट टू गेट देयर हाउ मच टाइम विल शो स्टार्ट योर जर्नी
Right, absolutely. Rightly said, Chef. I can see a lot of questions. Few questions are around, starting a cloud kitchen. There are many questions wherein learners are asking that they want to start their own cloud kitchen. So,
right
any suggestions which you can give them so that, they can be successful?
see the cloud kitchen space is booming a lot. One thing very important is about when you want to run a cloud kitchen the basic thing is you need to know a lot about how to run a commercial kitchen right now. I don't know what kind of background the people have who've asked this question, so I'll try to answer it from a lens where the answer fits somewhat for all. But key things to run a good cloud kitchen is one, to identify the markets which you are opening the cloud kitchen for, so that the thing you're selling is going to work well. There's one. Two, you need to understand how a commercial kitchen works really well. So it's not just about cooking, right? So whenever you think about running a cloud kitchen or running a restaurant or a cafe, it's not then just about food. It's much more than that. Then it's about processes, it's about logistics, it's about SOPs, it's about a lot more than just recipe. Recipe is very important. What you're serving is very important. But how do you serve it consistently at scale is what is going to make it very rewarding in the longer run. So that's very important. So it's not easy, is what I'm saying. It's a very difficult job to do. But then, if you know the foundation really well, and if you have and if you can build a great team because you cannot do it alone, um, then only get into it. Also, because this market is so competitive, and running a cloud kitchen, you have to be dependent on your instant service platforms, and they take a huge chunk out of your sales as a percentage and as a commission. You need to then think about, that is it worth it, and then do your reverse engineering. So it's like, for me to answer it in like 2 minutes is going to be very difficult, but I'm just trying to say that you need to know your food really well. You need to know how a commercial kitchen runs, and then do it. The other way to look at it is as that you start very small and you do a trial, you run it, see how it's working for you, and then scale it up slowly. Because sometimes when now I look back and look at my journey, right, मैंने कंटेंट कभी बनाया नहीं था, वीडियो कभी रिकॉर्ड की नहीं थी, एक फोटो कभी अपलोड नहीं की थी सोशल मीडिया पे, राइट. I did not go and learn, or I cannot tell myself that I knew everything 10 years back. I knew nothing. Still, I was able to build what I've built in these past 10 years, right? So while I say that you need to know all of this, you need to learn and then enter. But it's not that you take 10 years to learn first and then go. You need to know the basics, enter, try it out. If it's working, build it and grow it. And then, yeah.
Right, great tips, Chef. Another very commonly asked question is that, the learners or attendees, they are working somewhere else. They are maybe some architect or someone is doing some IT job, and they want to switch their career and enter into this culinary field. So, what advice do you have for them? Should they enter into some structured, format of learning, or how should they proceed with it?
So I get this question a lot. A lot of people message me, "Hey, I'm a doctor and I've been a doctor for 20 years and now I want to switch because I'm done." Or some lawyer or some architect. And I just say the simple thing. While, it seems the grass is greener at the other side, I always tell this, it's when you make it your profession, it does not remain the same, right? So first, identify that if you really want to do it. The moment you identify you want to do it, while there are a lot of home cooks who have done good in their lives, I still feel like this basis of knowing food professionally just does this amazing, it's a revelation that you don't look at food as a layman the way while you are professionally trained, you look at food from a very different lens, right? Like, for an example, if you break down a recipe about if you're just making scrambled eggs, right? The consistency of the eggs is something that when you would do it as a layman, you would be like, यार थोड़ा ज्यादा पकाया कम पकाया. But actually हो क्या रहा है वो पैन के अंदर, तुम जब प्रोफेशनली ट्रेन होते हो तुमको पता चलता है वो क्यों हो रहा है, right? And that completely changes your perspective towards food. So I say if you are looking at it as a profession and as something that you want to take up and make your living out of it, you definitely should learn. Now, depending on how much you can invest and how much time you can invest, there are multiple options. But I say at least a minimum of you get into a structured program, maybe an online one, something like you guys do, for a year, and then it's kind of like a diploma, and then which just compiles everything, which is usually done in a period of about 3 years or 4 years, depending on which country you are. And that helps you give you that convenience and that flexibility of learning at the comfort of your home. One thing which is very important with such kind of courses is that you absolutely then, you have to end up in your kitchens and do whatever you've learned, because cooking is very hands-on. Um, and it does work out, right? I have so my sous chef who works with me in my kitchen. Um, he was studying in the COVID, so 2 years of his culinary arts has happened online, and he's so. and then he's one of my pillars in my kitchen. So it does work out. But what's very important, because it was something very difficult for me also to absorb, that how can I, you can learn through an online class. But then he always told me that I stood up in my kitchen and I tried every single thing. I cooked, I experimented, and I then learned. And then I also thought to myself that it's something that we also do, right? We are always teaching people how to cook through your food lab, and people do great things after watching our content. But yeah, we have a very recipe oriented POV when we create content, right? But when it's in a structured course where it's from the basics, your techniques, your cooking mediums, you break it down to a very minute level, it becomes very interesting to learn about food in that format. And I guess the kind of course you guys are doing at AAFT is something incredible. Back in the day, you did not have such courses when I was studying. But yeah, you guys are doing great. And I feel if someone wants to switch, or even someone does not have the bandwidth to now spend 3 years or 4 years, that's a great option. Yeah, but I always say that if you have the bandwidth for 3, 4 years, you have the money, you have the time, yeah, you go ahead and actually enroll yourself in a culinary arts institute. Why not? But then that's not everyone's cup of tea. So this is an option which makes it much more easier for people, right?
Yeah, absolutely, Chef. And I'll just take a moment here to tell all of you that, the program which Chef was just talking about, that is a diploma program that we offer at AAFT, and we have an online 1 year diploma program wherein you can learn all the nitty-gritties of, culinary art, and you can actually convert this passion of yours into a profession. In case you are interested, these are our numbers and email ID. Quickly, you can just get in touch with us and we'll explain you in detail what all we are offering. Okay, coming back to, Chef, you have this art of, breaking down complex recipes into simpler ones. So how do you do that? What's the formula for that?
Sorry, can you come again?
You have this art of breaking a complex recipe into simpler ones. So what
Oh,
is
yeah.
that formula of yours? How do you do it?
Yeah, I missed your question because I was reading this comment to someone who's commenting again and again that is 10th and 12th percentage really important to become a
Okay.
chef. You need to be a really good cook, and you need to be open to learn new techniques every single day to be a great chef. The percentage really does not matter. But yes, to get in a college, you will have to clear your 10th and 12th and then get into a college if you are actually doing like a proper course, which is like a proper bachelor's course or something like that. But then if you are signing up for diploma or something, you can get into it early and start your journey. It's completely up to you. That's a journey you shape for yourself. But मेरे percentage उतने अच्छे नहीं थे. Not that I'm saying that you should not study. You should study and pay a lot of attention. There's no glamour in saying कि भाई मैं पढ़ाई नहीं करता था और मैं फिर भी बहुत कुछ अच्छा कर लिया. पढ़ लिया होता और थोड़ा सा ज्यादा मैंने परसेंटेज अच्छी हो जाती तो कुछ खराब नहीं होता. That I can say. But to take up your question, right? You need to for my kind of work, what I do, I need to think from a lens of someone who does not know to cook, right? So I usually ask questions from people who have never entered the kitchen, and that gives me a great insight about how do I want to break down a recipe. For an example, my wife is a very successful chartered accountant, right? And she does not cook, and she once cut a Valencia orange horizontally. And she came to me and was like, why this looks different? And then it was a revelation, right? That a lot of people, because they don't enter the kitchen, and it's not bad because my wife is working since she started her articleship when she was 17 years old, and since then she was working, so she never got the time to enter the kitchen. And I think that's one reason we also clicked, because I cook and she does not. So yeah, and I don't. She does better accounts than me. So, but that gives me this idea about that when people don't enter the kitchen, they don't know a lot of things which you feel are muscle memory for you. So, for an
Hmm.
example, like when I present a recipe today, I talk about it from the lens of, switch on the flame, keep the pan, and switch on the flame, and then heat the pan, and then put your flame on low, and now add the spices. Now, usually what people used to always do on television on, content is, हाँ, मसालों को पैन में भून लीजिए. कौन से पैन में, कितने टेम्परेचर पर, कब, कितने टाइम तक. You need to tell people because people don't know.
Yeah.
I first forget how to cook, think about it from that angle, and then cater to it. So that is why it just gets simplified. Secondly, I love to be on track with what I am presenting and be with the recipe and with the process so that people are invested in it when they're trying to cook at home. And also it's just about this beautiful, thing about content creation is that for me, I win when people are able to replicate the same thing or make something better than me when they're cooking at home. So if I look at it from a perspective, yaar, I am trying to flaunt my skills on camera, then it does not do the job. I need to make, I don't need to be the hero in my content. The hero has to be the home cook who's trying to cook at home. If
Mm.
that person is able to cook better food after watching my video, that's my win. And that's when I become someone who helped them do that. Until and unless my job's not done, right? So that's the perspective, and for each recipe it just keeps changing, but it's one common thing about thinking from a perspective that people don't know how to cook. There's someone watching who's never entered the kitchen, and then I try to also include things which be interesting for people who have been cooking for 40 years, right? So it becomes interesting.
Yeah, great. I think you cover a lot from being zero to being, 100. So on that scale. Okay, another question which I can see a lot is how can we make food more presentable? If you can share your ideas on that.
Can we, sorry, I had lost you in the middle.
Okay, so another question is how can we improve our plating techniques? How can
Plating
we,
techniques.
yeah, make the food look more presentable?
Um, See, everybody has their own personal way of presenting food. On your food lab for a long period of time, I've tried to plate food as we plate at home, and I don't do very intricate plating, which I know how to do, but that's something I don't feel we Indians at home present our food in a very different manner. Very simple things use texture. So I break it down in a very simple way. Understand colors really well and textures really well. Two things, very important. So if you understand these two things, you'll always be able to plate food beautifully. Like for an example, if I am doing maybe food which is yellow in color, right? Like maybe a Punjabi curry. So what would complement that yellow? How would that yellow look more brighter and more beautiful? Can I plate it in black or white or red or blue? When it'll look good. And then I'll also think about, do I want to play it in a very polarizing manner or play it in a very simple manner? Or I want to make it look a little more classical. मेरे को अगर traditional classical करना है, I'll use maybe a brass or a kansa bowl, right? If I want to do very contemporary, I'll use a very nice rustic off-white ceramic handmade bowl, right?
Mm.
So you need to think from that POV. And then you also need to understand how do you layer it up. So layering basically is using different textures. So I use a texture with the bowl or a plate, which is the container or the medium you're serving the food. And then the food goes inside and then you garnish it. So there's layering. You have to elevate the dish. The dish should not look flat. So that's simple. And then you keep doing it. Whenever you're doing plating, don't be very forceful. Don't try to do it in a manner that it is like following steps, and yeah, invest a little bit in good uh, plates and bowls, different textures, different materials. Like for me, a good mix would be ceramic, terracotta, kansa, stainless steel, a little bit of wood. So these different materials. And then sometimes layer it up. Like serve your food on a wooden board, but uske upar kansa hai metal, and then
Yeah.
the food there. So you have different materials, textures. So yeah.
Great. Thank you for sharing these tips. Another very common question is that we are not into non-veg food cooking and we do not eat non-veg food. Then,
Right.
as a vegetarian option, can we excel in this field if we are only into vegetarian cooking? And there are some Jains also who ask this question that we as Jains, we do not use a lot of things. So, how can we excel in this profession?
Um, so I have two views on it. One view is a very industry view, is about if you want to, uh, so all of your traditional courses initially and till date also, you have to cook non-vegetarian food. I'm not saying you have to, but that's a part of the course. So I'm not telling that you have to. Um, and that's that is because it's that industry where there are kitchens which serve both kinds of food, right? And they serve. Um, it's been very interesting that how the food world is evolving, and there's a lot of vegetarianism and veganism which is, being celebrated by restaurants, and it's not just in India but also outside of India. So I keep telling this to educators, and whenever I meet people from my industry, I keep telling them that, it's high time that we should have courses which only cater to people who are vegetarian, because India as a country, we have a lot of vegetarians in our country, right? And even my content, I do about 95% of my content is vegetarian, right? Uh, so I feel the whole idea of presenting food as an art and a craft should not confine someone to not take part in it because you have to do something that does not align with you and your culture and with your religious beliefs, and your personal preferences. But sadly, if you go to a culinary school outside of India, or maybe also you do hotel management or culinary arts as a bachelor's program, then non-vegetarian food definitely is a part of it. I'm not sure if, like the course we were talking about with AFT, I think maybe you can get some flexibility because it's online. You can just focus on what you want to learn. And then, but then you need to make your path, right? That once you learn, and if you want to gain some industry experience, how do you then find opportunities which you get in a vegetarian first restaurant or a vegan restaurant and work there and get experience that you never have to then cook non-vegetarian food? Yes, but definitely the options are pretty less. If you're doing it the traditional way, you'll have like there's no option over there. Um, yeah, but I definitely feel there should be more options for people who are vegetarian, and this should not be the reason them not pursuing, this industry.
Right, absolutely. I agree with you. And we at AFT, we do, although we do teach non-veg cooking, but we also, guide about how to convert that into a vegetarian cuisine. So, yes. Another question, Chef, that is storytelling also an important part of, food? Can that improve or enhance the overall experience of eating and, dining?
It depends on what setting are you, presenting your food, right? And um, I'm not talking about content at all over here. I'm just talking about like restaurants and fine dining, etc. In fine dining at a certain scale, yes, definitely it matters because at the end of the day, food is a representation of what you think, right? And what ends up on your table is exactly how the chef is thinking. So it's something that reflects your personality. So I always feel food should always have personality. That's very important. But in a different setting, when you go to have a vada pav on the street, the vada pav vendor does not need to tell you a story to sell that. That's pure food, and that's just that. Uh, food that you love. So while you say that, okay, storytelling is amazing, I also feel that you don't need to complicate food at all times. जरूरी नहीं है यार कि तुमको हमेशा फूड को बहुत मॉडर्न तरीके से छोटा छोटा सर्व करना है. That's also good. But you can also serve your food like how we Indians eat at home, and that's also good. Food has got unlimited ways and possibilities to be served. It completely depends on you as a person, as a personality when you become a chef, how you want to present your food. So for me, it's always evolving. Like for an example, when I started Waffle, it was all about doing new recipes, creating new recipes, not doing something from the book, doing a lot of fusion food and all of that. For the last couple of years, I've been very much into traditional cooking, and I've like my belief about exploring Indian recipes and regional recipes. Um, and keeping it simple and not complicating it. सो इट कम्प्लीटली डिपेंड्स. तो अगर किसी को डर लगता है ना ये सोच के यार कि मैं एक मिशलिन स्टार रेस्टोरेंट में देखता हूँ बहुत कुछ हो रहा है टेक्निक्स, इट्स नॉट required, it's not important. Yes, you aspire to do that, welcome to do that, and you should do it. But if you don't want to do that, you can also keep food simple and still people will love you for your food if the food is good. And then if you're doing a restaurant, the service has to be good, the ambience has to be good, everything has to be good to make it an experience. Because तुम खाना तो घर पे भी खाते हो, तुमको खाना घर पे क्यों अच्छा लगता है? तुम्हारे घर के माहौल में तुमको कोई अच्छे से खिलाता है प्यार से. So when you go out, you also need to feel pampered, right? So you need to be felt special, good, great food, great service, great ambience, all of that. तो वो सारी चीजें मैटर करती हैं.
Right, chef. But यहाँ पर क्या होता है that many a times, we hear this comment from the younger generation saying कि घर का खाना doesn't taste the same as बाहर वाला खाना. That is more tasty and more delicious. So, any hack which you
Ask,
would want to
ask the
tell?
same, ask the same people. It's a very different world we live in today. It's a very confusing world. हम ये बोलते हैं कि घर का खाना बाहर जैसे टेस्ट नहीं होता है. और आप देखोगे जो लोग खाना सिखा रहे हैं, हम जैसे लोग, हम बोलेंगे कि घर पर आप रेस्टोरेंट जैसे ये अचीव करो रिजल्ट. ठीक है. एंड देन व्हेन वी गो आउट टू ईट इन रेस्टोरेंट, हम बोलते हैं यार घर जैसा नहीं लगता है यार ये बाहर का खाना. सो
Yeah, yes.
रेस्टोरेंट्स आर प्रेजेंटिंग फूड टेलिंग यू होम लाइक फूड, and then we are searching restaurant like food at home. So at the end of the day, you need to think about this, right? Food, whether at home or whether in restaurants, food has to be good. Whether it's simple, whether it's elevated, whether it's modern, whether it's fusion, whether it's regional, खाना अच्छा होना चाहिए. Food should always be made with the right intent. मैं हमेशा ये बोलता हूँ कि खाना हमेशा अच्छी नीयत से पकाना चाहिए. Your
Hmm.
food will always taste good. No matter however you are cooking it and whatever your presentation is, वो अगर अच्छी नीयत से बना हुआ है तो सबसे बेस्ट खाना होगा. And for me, that always has been temple food, right? When I go to a temple and I have the food over there, that cannot match any Michelin star restaurant in the world, because
Absolutely.
nobody can
Absolutely.
have that pure intent when they are cooking in a commercial environment, right? माँ के हाथ का खाना हम बोलते हैं because of that intent, right? That love that goes into it. So one tip, wherever you are cooking, cook with the most beautiful intent, with nourishing someone, right? Food is life. If we don't eat food, we won't stay alive, right? So if you're cooking for someone, cook from that intent that you're nourishing someone. The food will automatically taste good, and that will translate through your plate.
Absolutely. I think this was a wonderful tip that you shared. And today, there are so many aspiring chefs who are wanting to, build their brand and, make themselves enter into this career. So, on your experience, how do you, how important, in fact, I would say, is it for chefs to build their own personal brand also alongside, these technical skills?
See, you cannot do it purposely, right? You cannot be like, okay, now I'm going to build my career and my personal brand together. Your personal brand would be built on the kind of value you have created being a chef. That could be anywhere in a commercial kitchen, in a restaurant, or you're part of the media kitchen industry, wherever you are. Your brand would only be created on the foundation of great work. So you cannot create a brand without it. So you have to have great body of work to create your personal brand. Otherwise, you will miserably fail at it. तो आपको पहले तो काम सब्सटैंशियल काम करना पड़ेगा, बॉडी ऑफ वर्क क्रिएट करनी पड़ेगी, दैट पीपल लव यू फॉर योर वर्क, and then you can do your things to create your personal brand, whatever is required to do that. But you cannot create a personal brand to have a great body of work. It does not work that way, right? However amazing you are, but if people come to your restaurant, the food does not speak for itself. Your personal brand does not matter, and it's never going to be built. So don't think about it at a phase where you are starting out. But yes, if you have great body at work, having create and being out there is a great thing to do, but it's not important. It's not compulsory. A lot of people cannot be out there and speak in front of the camera, and it's great if you could do that. But that does not mean that if you're not good at it, you cannot become a good chef, right? For being a good chef, you need to be a good chef. That's the most important thing. Um, Now, whether you want to be a part of a restaurant, run a kitchen, do media kitchen, whatever, it takes different kinds of skill sets to be there. But yeah, it's a taxing job. It's a physical and a mental, heavy job where you need to be physically strong and mentally strong as well. But it's a great job. आप ये सोचो यार, आप खाना पका रहे हो, कोई खा रहा है और वो स्माइल कर रहा है और खुश है. What could be a better job than that, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, completely agree with that. Another question, Chef, that what are the common mistakes you think the beginners make? And sometimes these are the mistakes which often hold them back from improving, or they might just get demotivated and not move ahead. So if you could just tell one or two of these mistakes and how they can just overcome them.
So one is being open to you know navigating through obstacles, right? Um, like for me, I had different plan. Um, so your food lab was not on the charts at all, and YFL also took away a big part of what I wanted to do. So I worked with restaurants, but that was not like a that's not a substantial part of my career, right? And I do miss standing in a commercial kitchen and cook for people, right? But then I also realized that what I am doing right for the industry is also very important for people to know about our cuisine, right? Like for an example, a few years back, I did a black mutton recipe on the channel. And when I did it, there was possibly no video or content piece done on it. This was done about 7 years back. So I did a video in depth, and then now you will see like about thousands of videos on the internet. And then there are chefs like Amrinder Sandhu who also has black mutton on her menu. So for me, it's very important for people to know about the cuisine. They ask for it. If there's no room for it, there's no appetite for it, then you will always have to serve butter chicken or paneer makhni on your menu until and unless
Mm.
people don't know about how beautiful our cuisine is. So I'm doing my bit, right? But if I would have been very, very stubborn, saying, no, I'm just going to be doing what I had thought in my head, maybe I would not
Mm.
have been successful, right? So one thing is very important is to be open to navigate through obstacles and be open to understanding what you really want to do on the journey, not be very stubborn, but also be very patient that success does not come very early. It takes a lot of time. It tests your patience, and you need to be really patient and be at it all the time. बी ओपन टू लर्निंग. हम यूजुअली एक कोर्स करते हैं या कॉलेज से निकलते हैं, हमको ऐसा लगता है हमको सब कुछ आता है. But
Mm.
matter of the fact is that I also don't know everything. I know this small, tiny, teeny bit, of Indian cuisine today. And in my whole life, I would not be able to know it all. And there's so much to learn. So you have to have the appetite for it. उस चीज के लिए आपको हंगर होनी चाहिए, भूख होनी चाहिए सीखने के लिए. Then only you will evolve and grow and become better at what you do. So that's very important. And and these are like bigger things, right? The most basic thing is just to start. A lot of people just don't start, just keep thinking about कि हाँ एक दिन ये करना है. I'm not good at it today. So until and unless you don't leave on your journey, right, you won't reach the destination. It's as simple as if I'm in Mumbai and if I want to go to Pune, right? What's the easiest way to go? Drive in your own car, right? Someone comes and tells me that I don't have a car to go to Pune. How do I go to Pune? Book a cab. I don't have the money to book a cab. Book a bus. I don't have the money to book a bus. Go in the train. मेरे पास उतने भी पैसे नहीं है. You have a bicycle, start cycling. No, I don't have a bicycle. Walk towards Pune, you will reach there. It's just going to be a little more difficult, but you will reach. You will reach slow, but you will reach. But you understand that the person who's left in the car would learn much more lesser things about life reaching to Pune than a person who's walked to Pune, right?
Yeah.
So there are pros and cons about everything, but if you want to reach somewhere, you have to leave to reach there. तो आधे से ज्यादा लोग तो निकलते ही नहीं है वो जर्नी पे. So that's very important that you leave on the journey, then only you will reach to the destination. But if you leave and you keep walking, you will definitely reach. Maybe a little later, but much more stronger.
Wow, that was an amazing example that you gave. Very inspiring. So, before we end this webinar, one last question. Your piece of advice to all the budding entrepreneurs and chefs and culinary, enthusiasts over here. What is your one piece of advice to them?
Just believe in yourself. Love what you do. Like I just said that food is amazing, and for me, food's always been about the act of serving. मुझे खाना बनाने से खाना बनाकर किसको परोसने में बहुत ज़्यादा मज़ा आता है, right? Because that gives me a very, very enriching feeling and experience. So enjoy that experience and cook amazing food, love food, and be at it and keep learning about food every single day. If you're starting out, build an amazing foundation. You need to know the basics of cooking, the foundation of cooking. But I'm also telling you, you do whatever course you want, right? If even if you're doing this course, you'll have to enter your kitchen and cook,
Yeah.
right? Because food is such a vast topic. Once you are told how you hone your skills, right? Then it's completely up to you how you get better at it. So it's basically just like यार कि कोई म्यूजिक में बेसिक नोट सिखा देता है कि तुमको सारे
Right.
नोट्स आते हैं. अभी उससे म्यूजिक तुम कैसे बना सकते हो completely तुम पर डिपेंड करता है. So in a culinary course, when you go enter a culinary course, you will be taught that those musical notes, those basics to create recipes, to cook food. Once you learn that, then is where you will start your journey. So your journey starts after you've learned your basics. And one more thing to be very, 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 it's a thing I always tell people. We usually join a course or a college or a culinary arts course thinking about कि ये कोर्स करने के बाद मैं सबसे बेस्ट बटर चिकन बनाने वाला हूँ. It does not work like that. You don't learn only recipes, right? You learn the basics of cooking. What's grilling, what's pan frying, how do you fry something at a certain temperature, what happens to it, right? So these are the kind of things you learn जो आपको और better cook करने में और एक normal layman से ज़्यादा समझने में help करती है. ठीक है. और फिर तुम recipes बनाते हो. So if you enter a course thinking about that I am going to learn 100 recipes from here and then just replicate it, you are in the wrong place and you will never be able to succeed in this industry. So look at food first from the POV of learning your basics, making your foundation very, very strong. That will open a very different world of food for you. And then you start your journey of experimenting with recipes, your personality of food, and your journey will then just keep growing every single day और रोज तुमको सीखना पड़ेगा. But this will give you this boost initially and create that foundation for you, right? So be ready for it is what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And thank you so much, Chef, with that piece of advice. I would want to thank you on behalf of everyone over here, all the attendees, everyone from AAFT. Thank you so much for taking out time. And it was lovely listening to you today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, and everyone who's been watching this live stream. Thank you so much for tuning in, and all the best to everyone who wants to pursue and enter this beautiful world of food. I would love to see a few of you, and maybe in the future, if you're doing something great in this industry, and you walk up to me and tell me that, oh, chef, I had attended this particular webinar once and I was a part of it and I'm doing this today. I would love to hear you from you. So looking forward to that. My best wishes to AAFT and to everyone who's watching. And yeah, guys, some people had some different kind of questions. Hit me up on my socials. I would love to answer you guys. And yeah, otherwise, these guys have a great team to answer, very specific questions about your career, about how do you take up this particular course, etc. You can get in touch with these guys, and I'm sure they'll help you out. Thank you so much, Arohi, for keeping this very conversational. Enjoyed every bit of it, and wishing all of you a great rest of the day ahead.
Thank you so much. The pleasure was all ours. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
See you. See you. Happy cooking. Keep loving food. Stay food blessed.